Hi, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Jen and I'm delighted to meet you. I eat a lot of meat and I'm always excited to find new and easy ways to prepare it. I got a new air fryer that's already been a great asset to my kitchen, and today I'm going to show you exactly how I used it to make 7 new carnivore recipes. Brace yourself, this is going to be a good one. You are definitely going to want to save this video for later. Today we're making a juicy ribeye, brisket, yes, brisket in an air fryer, salmon fillets, bratwurst, pork loin, crispy cod bites, and last but not least, steak and shrimp kebabs. In the past, I shared a video much like this one where the only seasonings I used were basically salt. So the only seasoning, not seasonings, it was just salt. And I did that in order to make the recipes true, strict carnivore. But I've personally graduated just a bit beyond that super strict carnivore protocol. So today I'm going to use some seasonings other than salt, but keep in mind that you don't have to do that if you don't want to. First of all, let me quickly show you the air fryer that I'm using. It's from a company called Tasty, and it has a couple really great features that I haven't had before from previous air fryers. First of all, it has a built-in probe to keep close tabs on the internal temperature of your meat. The reason that's so great is because I don't have to guess how long to cook my food anymore. Rather than choosing a certain cooking time, I can instead choose the temperature that I want my food to get, and the cooking will stop once my meat reaches that temperature. Tasty calls this their perfect doneness setting. It also has multiple cooking modes, including specific modes for steak, fish, chicken, pork, fries, air fry, slow cook, and dehydrate. Lastly, Tasty has a super useful app that is loaded with dozens of recipes and communicates directly with the air fryer. You can actually choose a recipe from the app, click a button in the app, and it will start the air fryer with the exact settings that you need for that recipe. This air fryer is 5.5 quarts, which is a little on the small side, but I like that it doesn't take up much counter space. It comes with a non-stick cooking tray as well as a metal cooking rack. And one of my favorite things is that the temperature probe wraps perfectly around this probe organizer that tucks right into the side of the air fryer. This might be the only thermometer I've ever owned that I don't constantly lose. Okay, now let's get started on those recipes that you came here for. Of course, the very first thing I had to make was a ribeye. There is no other food that would be more appropriate for this air fryer's maiden voyage. Look how thick this thing is. It must be close to 2 inches. That means with any other air fryer, I'd be totally guessing at the cooking time if I didn't have a built-in temperature probe. Just in case anyone doesn't believe this is a ribeye, because I know it looks a little different than the typical ribeye, here's the package to prove it. I got this one from Chambers Canyon Ranch in Texas. All I did was season it with a salt and pepper blend, insert the temperature probe, and place it on the metal rack in the air fryer. I chose steak for the cooking mode, selected ribeye, and after some debate, I chose medium rare for my perfect doneness. When I pushed start, the air fryer gave me an estimated cooking time based on the current temperature of the meat. As it cooks, the air fryer will alert me if I need to flip it, which is another really handy feature. As you can see, my ribeye was already looking delectable when I went to flip it. As it approaches its perfect doneness, the air fryer actually turns off to allow the temperature to continue increasing until it's perfect. Speaking of perfect, look at this beautiful thing. And let's see how it turned out. Remember that I chose medium rare as my perfect doneness. I mean, looks pretty perfect to me. And trust me, it was also delicious. Next up on today's recipe list is brisket. I have never made a brisket in an air fryer, so I was pretty dang excited about this one. The reason you can do it in this air fryer is because it has a slow cook mode. I purchased a whole brisket from my grocery store, had them trim the fat, and had them separate the brisket flat from the point. This is the flat. It's too big for the air fryer, so I cut it in half. You better believe I'll be saving the other half for later and making this again. I seasoned the brisket with 3 of my favorite seasonings, which include this paprika and onion blend, Redmond real salt, and smoked salt, also from Redmond. I coated both sides with all 3 seasonings, then nestled it into a little foil cocoon. I stuck the temperature probe in, added about a 1/4 cup of water to help retain moisture, and then covered the brisket the rest of the way with foil. Then I stuck the whole package of goodness right into the air fryer. I searched the Tasty app for their brisket recipe, and that's how I got the settings going on the air fryer. They'll give you step-by-step instructions if you want them, but I kind of did my own thing. The nice thing is when you click that set to cook button at the bottom, it transmits all the settings over to the air fryer, and all you have to do is press the start button. Once it starts cooking, the display on the phone will look like this, and it'll let you keep a constant eye on the temperature of your meat, the ambient temperature in the air fryer, and the target temperature. The goal here is to get the internal temperature of the brisket to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Then have it rest in the air fryer while it's off for 90 minutes. After that, you're supposed to air fry it uncovered at a high setting for just a few minutes to finish it off. All of that is supposed to take about 5.5 hours. Well, after 6 hours, the temperature of my meat had stalled around 175 degrees and didn't seem to be going up anymore, so I made an executive decision to stop cooking, let it rest in the air fryer for an additional 30 minutes. It's been 6 hours now, and this still says the probe temperature is 173 degrees. Well, 175 to 173, but it's been there for hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop it. I'm gonna let it sit in here for 30 more minutes, and then we're gonna take it out. Well, it's the moment of truth. See how this turned out since I didn't exactly. And then I took it out, unsnuggled it from its foil blankets, and air fried it at 450 degrees for 8 minutes. Oh, and look, there's a light bulb button so you can turn on the light inside and watch your food cook. How fun is that? I know I kind of took matters into my own hands here, but how freaking good does this look? And upon slicing it, it appears to be done to me. I took a little nibble and was not disappointed in the slightest. I think my best tip though is to add back all the drippings and then dip your meat into that liquid gold before each bite. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to make some salmon fillets. I started by patting them dry with a paper towel. Then I spread a little Dijon mustard over them and sprinkled them with my salt and pepper mixture. I'm using the temperature probe again so I don't accidentally overcook these little fishies. I have a bad habit of doing that with salmon. I used the fish mode, selected salmon, and chose medium as my perfect doneness. These were ready in less than 10 minutes, and look how flaky. I took a little nibble and it definitely passed the taste test. I'll be honest, I don't tend to love salmon, but I know it's so good for you, so I strive to eat it something like once per week. Now that I can do it this easily, maybe I can start being more compliant. Next up, we're going to make one of my guilty pleasures, bratwursts. I love a big juicy brat almost as much as I love steak. Look at these 4 beauties I have today. Again, I'm using the temperature probe because I want to make sure that the pork reaches an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't get too hung up on the internal temperatures of most meats except when it comes to chicken and pork, which means that I often tend to overcook them. I'm hoping that this new air fryer will help me out in that department. So I tried using pork mode on the air fryer, but I couldn't figure out how to choose my perfect doneness temperature. But here's a fun fact about me. I'm kind of the queen of workarounds. So instead, I chose a pork chop recipe from the app, knowing that I'd be able to select my perfect temperature there, and I just lied to the air fryer and made it think I was cooking pork chops. In a pinch, that worked fine. But later, I contacted customer service and they walked me through the proper way to do it. So I'll be sure to share that with you after I show you the world's most beautiful cooked brats. Look at these. They are just blistered and juicy and I couldn't be more excited. My boyfriend is super nervous about eating undercooked brats, so he always makes me boil them before we grill them, then I feel like they're overcooked. I'm so happy to have found this solution instead and he'll actually eat it because I can prove to him they're fully cooked. I planned to take a little bite for you, but it was so delicious that I basically ate one whole brat. Oopsie. Suffice it to say that they turned out perfectly. Now for those of you who follow the rules, here's the proper way to cook these without having to use the special delighted to meet you workaround. You choose pork mode and then select this little chef hat, which allows you to customize the settings and choose your selected internal temperature. I will do that next time, but I'm glad I messed it up this time because now I know that customer service is super helpful and can fix my user error problems. The next thing we're going to make is another pork item. This time it's a pork tenderloin. I'm seasoning this with that smoked paprika and onion seasoning that I used before, as well as some Redmond real salt. This thing is so long, so I can't exactly get the temperature probe all the way to the middle. I chose the pork tenderloin recipe in the app and debated for a long while what temperature I'd like to cook it to. I ultimately decided on 153 degrees Fahrenheit to ensure that the true center will get to at least 145 degrees. This time I actually took a screen recording of the entire cook time so you can see exactly how that shows up on the phone. A little before the halfway mark, it told me to flip it, so I did. It reached 153 degrees a few minutes before it predicted, and after about 10 minutes of sitting out on the counter, I started getting just a little bit nervous and wondering if it really got hot enough to be safe to eat, so I tested it with an old trusty thermometer. Sure enough, even after sitting out for 10 minutes, the center was still 145 degrees. So that gave me confidence that this new air fryer is not steering me wrong. Next up, let's get a little more creative. We're going to make some crispy cod bites. I used frozen cod, and while it thawed, I mixed up my breading. I used a 1/4 cup of pork rind crumbs, 1/4 cup of Parmesan, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, though I will decrease that to 1/8 teaspoon next time. I mixed that all up and melted 1 tablespoon of butter. I cut my thawed cod into several pieces, then dipped each piece into butter and then the breading mixture. I ran out of butter a little too soon, so next time I'll use 1.5 tablespoons per fillet. I placed all the pieces in the air fryer and then used air fry mode to cook it. I set the temperature to 390 degrees Fahrenheit and the time for 15 minutes. These turned out nice and crispy and smelling surprisingly good. I took a little nibble for you, and these are really great, of course. Nice and crispy on the outside, flaky and hot on the inside. So now I have another great way to incorporate more seafood into my diet. That is something I need to get better at. The last recipe we're gonna make today is steak and shrimp kebabs. I'm going to throw these bamboo skewers right into the air fryer, and a little Google search taught me that they should soak in water for 30 minutes first so they don't burn up. While they soaked, I thawed my frozen shrimp by tossing them in a colander and running cold water over them for a few minutes. I cut up 1/2 pound of sirloin into about 1-inch cubes, and by the time I was done, my shrimp was thawed. I air fried the beef at 400 degrees for 3 minutes because I think it'll need longer to cook than the shrimp. Then I took it out and alternated pieces of partially cooked beef with shrimp until my sticks were full. I seasoned my skewers with a garlic and pepper blend and then air fried them sticks and all at 400 degrees for another 3 minutes. That seriously took a total of 6 minutes of cooking time, and look how perfectly they turned out. The steak isn't too overdone and the shrimp are opaque but still springy. I am feeling super accomplished today. I tasted a little bit of shrimp and oh my goodness, it was perfect. Of course, I had to try the steak too, and look at this deliciously pink center. I think I've outdone myself with this one. 2 thumbs way up. So there you have it, 7 tasty carnivore recipes for the air fryer. I really do like this tasty air fryer. The only thing that would make me like it more is if it were bigger. But you can see that I was able to make quite a bit in it, even at the size that it is. If you don't have this exact air fryer, you'll just have to play around a little bit with the settings and the timings, but you can still make most of these recipes. But if you are interested in this particular one, I would definitely recommend it. One thing I forgot to point out is that there was no smoke from cooking any of these recipes. I do have a vent fan in the kitchen because I cook a lot of smoky stuff, but I didn't even have to turn it on. If you have any specific questions about the tasty air fryer or any of these recipes, let me know in the comments. I'll also leave more details for you in the caption in case you're interested in getting one. As usual, thank you so much for watching. I'd love it if you'd like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if you try any of these recipes, and I'll catch you next time.